Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, the podcast where the dogs are the stars of the show. Welcome to episode 70 of the Relaxed Dog Podcast, sponsored by therelaxeddog.com. Thank you very much for finding this show. Welcome back to our regular listeners, and welcome if this is your first show. I am your host, Robert Ober, and I hope that you and your dog are well. My guest this week is Kentucky Gallahue. It will be a very entertaining conversation. And don't forget, if you could please hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. And now, some doggy news. When we go to Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur, a group of men were getting ready to go for a hike, and they had just sort of started when they came across a stray dog. The dog decided to join the group, was given a biscuit, and then led the group for the majority of their 12K hike. They did a little bit of video. It went onto social media, and I think it's clicked over 2 million views on TikTok. Over to the US and in Utah. Now, sadly, our dogs are taken away from us all too quickly. And a couple that owned a lovely dog by the name of Maggie had made the difficult decision after Maggie had been suffering from cancer for quite some time. They gave her a farewell weekend, which comprised of Maggie's favourite things like paddleboarding and lots of her food and some camping. But what they really wanted to do was let Maggie experience some snow for the last time. So they put out a bit of a call to see if anyone had some ice shaving machinery that was not being used during the summer season. What happened then was the Salt Lake City Ice Center came across their quest and basically delivered a whole pile of ice to their place, and Maggie enjoyed her final romp in some snow. So very nicely done. And now, this week's interview. Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast. I am here with Kentucky Gallahue. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Robert? Thanks for having us on.
No, absolutely my pleasure. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
So for those people that don't immediately know your name, who are we going to talk about today?
Man, mostly we're going to talk about is my good friend right here, my road dog, Derby. And Derby is my 9-year-old golden doodle that, we've traveled the world. We traveled the United States, and through that, we've become such great friends, and I can't wait to tell you more about him.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more about him. So, as per normal, I'm going to ask you to take us back in time to before you met Derby and talk to us and tell us about the whys and the hows that happened.
All right. So this was, how far back was this, buddy? So this was probably around 9 years ago. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, in Midtown. I'd always had dogs all my life. I grew up on a farm in Kentucky, and I've had free dogs and dogs you get in the newspaper for free, but they were all outside dogs. They're the ones that let you know when people are coming up the driveway, or bark to scare critters around. I had a Great Dane in college, and so always been around dogs. But when I was living in Midtown Atlanta, I saw these things called Doodles, and these things started to become very popular in the city. And I didn't really understand what they were. And then I found out, I was like, oh, they're kind of like golden retrievers and poodles, but they don't shed. But that's a pretty good thing to do to have with a dog sometimes, especially living in an apartment. So I started doing my little research on them, and I didn't realize how expensive they were. Doodles are really expensive here in the Americas. I mean, we're talking close to $2,000 nowadays. And that's just so crazy to me. I just never really paid for a dog that much. Well, so I thought that was going to be into that. Well, through one of my old college buddies and his wife's family, they had gotten two Doodles. One family got the brother, one got Derby. And they had him for about a year and a few months. And they realized they had two kids, one on the way. And they were a loving family. They just realized they did not have time for Derby. He just needed somebody to give him more guidance, and he needed more attention. He basically knew his family, his backyard, and the kennel that they kept him in all day to, they told me stories that he ate 2 dresses. He pulled a turkey off the counter. So they understood, like, look, he needs to be rehomed. And so they found out about me looking for one. They said, look, we've heard about what you do with your dogs and take great care of them and take them everywhere. We're going to give you Derby. And I was like, awesome. So I went and met him. The kids had named him Midas. I looked at him. I was like, man, I don't know if we're going to keep that name. He looked like a Midas. So I brought him home. He was he was a little bit smaller than this, but he was already full grown. I never saw him as a puppy. I kind of reached out to my friends on Facebook and said, hey, this is my new road dog. What should I name him? And all my friends were kind of like, hey, name him this. And one of my good friends said, dude, you should name him Derby so you all be Kentucky and Derby. And it blew my mind. I was like, yes, that's it. So that's where we started. We became Kentucky and Derby right then and there. Living in Midtown Atlanta, Derby didn't know much about the big city. He was actually really, really skittish. He didn't know that there were other people in the world. He didn't know that there were other dogs in the world. So I just kind of looked at him and said, man, I'm going to take you on adventures. And I know you're going to be afraid, but I'm always going to be here for you. And that's when his confidence started to grow. And through that confidence, teaching him tricks and things just came really, really easy. Like he wanted to learn. I started teaching him how to sit, stay, fetch, all the basic commands. Just even walking on a leash, you just need time to learn how to walk on a leash. After a while, I started teaching him to pick things up for me because I guess I've always wanted a dog to do that because they call me lazy. I have taught him how to get drinks out of a refrigerator before. But the big thing is when I sit on the couch and I say remote, he goes and finds the remote for me and brings it back to me. So,
cool.
It's just me being lazy, but then again, the dog gets to work too. So, we were kind of having our own thing, living there for a while. I think we lived there for probably 3 years together. At the time, I had never had a dog that needed to be groomed. So I didn't know that was a thing. And I had him for 3 months and he turned into a huge fluff ball. And I was like, oh, no, this is a thing with Doodles. You have to brush them. You have to comb them. You have to actually groom them. So I took him to his first groomer that I had ever, he had been groomed before. So he was used to it. And they were like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, man, I don't want to deal with all this hair. Can you just really slim him down really close? But at the time, I had like a mohawk faux hawk going around. And I was like, could you put a mohawk on him? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. And I was like, well, make it go all the way down his back too. Don't know what this was going to look like. He came back looking little skinny and just had this awesome hair on his top of his head. And I was like, yep, this is our new style. So, we started rocking that, living in Atlanta. Well, at the same time, I had been working in the nightclub bar industry for about 20 years. I do construction and everything with my friends. I'd owned bars, built bars, restaurants all over the Southeast. And being a bartender for 20 years, that nightlife will basically take over your life sometimes to the point where drugs and alcohol are definitely involved just to get through the weekend or just to party with every weekend. And I realized at that point in my time in life, I needed to change. I needed to change my lifestyle or I won't be here anymore. And that's where I always feel like through meeting Derby, me kind of saving him, he saved me. Because I went through a very big depression where the point where I didn't want to leave my apartment during the week unless I had to go to work. The only reason I left was just to take Derby out. And he would look at me like, hey, man, let's go outside. Let's go for a walk. And I'm like, okay, we'll leave. And I feel like he's the main reason I left my house. I knew the one day that I realized I needed to leave is I woke up one morning from a long weekend of working and partying. I'd been on the couch for 2 days kind of, and I woke up and I found my gun was on my coffee table. And I realized, I don't know how it vaguely got there, but I knew I was contemplating things. And I just realized I've got to get out. So my awesome, one of my sisters lives here in San Diego. She said, look, I know you're trying to just get out of the town. Come live with me in San Diego, bring Derby, and I got a place for you to stay where you can start over. So we packed up my truck. If it didn't fit, it didn't go. We took the 3-day journey across the United States. I'll be honest, I would have never been able to do that if it wasn't for this guy right here. It was tough just to leave my friends and everything I knew for a long time and just go. Got here and fell in love with San Diego. Like, San Diego was definitely my vibe. I like to walk around barefoot, and there's my other dog in the back. I like to walk around barefoot, just wear crazy clothes. Most of the time I'm wearing cutoff shirts, and just kind of just that slow moving vibe where, nothing really matters. And if I'd known about San Diego 20 years ago, I would have moved here immediately. But, what's that?
I was going to say, so how old was Derby when you made the move?
So that was 6 years ago. So he would have been about 3 or 4 about that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we get here, and one of the things we learned, Derby, actually another thing about Derby is he didn't like to swim when I first got him, like scared of the water. Mm-hmm. And while I was in Atlanta, I took him to one of my friend's pools, and I just got in the water with him. I was holding him, kind of letting him swim, figuring out his legs. By the end of the day, he was jumping off the diving board. And that's what I always stood. Is like, he just needed that confidence and knowing everything's going to be okay. And like, after that, he will learn anything. Mm-hmm. So we get to San Diego. He had never seen the beach. We went to OB Dog Beach, which is a little tiny surf town here in San Diego, Ocean Beach, and he loved it. Running around with all the other dogs. If you ever come to San Diego, California, do definitely go check out Ocean Beach Dog Beach. It's a humongous off-leash dog beach, and you just see the dogs playing in the surf, playing in the sand, running around. It's so amazing. And we just had so much fun. So the big thing is here in San Diego, you move here, you learn how to surf. And I've always wanted to learn how to surf. So I bought my first beginner surfboard, which is a soft top wave storm that you buy at Costco. Dog Beach was one of the greatest places to learn for beginner surfers because it was kind of in a cove. The waves were really, not that crazy, but you could learn. Mm-hmm. So I bought my surfboard, went there, brought Derby, and I figured he would play with all the other dogs. So I just kind of walked out to the waves, and he kept following me out there to the point where he was swimming next to me. And I was like, no, man, go play with the other dogs. So I'm just kind of looking around. I put him on the board. He stands on the board. I kind of gently push him into a wave, and he rides it all the way to the beach, standing up, turns around and looks at me like, is this what you're trying to do? Because this looks pretty easy. Yeah. I sat there in the water for a minute like, is this real life? Like, I'm so happy that this is awesome. But then again, I was kind of pissed off at the same time that he just learned how to surf before I did.
You did, yeah.
So we just kind of kept playing around with it. I didn't know what this was about. Like, I was like, this is something he likes to do. It's fun because the cool thing about Derby is when I surf him by himself and I push him into a wave, he hits the beach and I'm still in the water. He actually gets off the board, turns around, comes back out to me. Like sometimes I have to come back in, get the board, and he's still like, let's do it again. Let's go do this again. So I never force him to do anything he never wants to do. So it's just kind of like, yeah, if he wants to play, he'll play. He'll get on the board. Some dude walks up to us one week when we were playing around that first summer. He said, dude, there are surf dog competitions for that here in San Diego? I was like, nah, I've never heard of it. He said, you should look it up. I think there's one coming up. And I was like, okay. So I Google it. The first one was coming up in Imperial Beach. And we do 4 competitions a year up and down the California coast. That's the regular ones to do. They do have some over in Florida and Texas, but we haven't made it over to those. But their waves are not as big. I signed up. I had never been to a human surf competition, let alone a dog surf competition in my life. I didn't know what to expect. I know surfing's big in Australia, and like if you know that, that's probably like your number one sport. So everybody's probably been to one there. So I show up, I have a bag, a surfboard, and my dog. I look around at everybody else. Everybody else has tents set up. I mean, they're gonna they're gonna camp all day, and I didn't know this is an all day event. Also, another thing is I'll tell that story is how we got our hair. So I show up, I'm just watching everybody else, don't know anybody. And finally it was our turn. So we go up, they announce us. I will go out there and Derby just crushes it. We just do the one event where it's a single dog event where you push him into the wave. And he gets like 5th or 6th out of like 30 dogs. Wow. And all of a sudden everybody came up to us like, dude, where did y'all come from? Like, how long have y'all been doing this? And I'm like, we've been doing this for like 6 weeks. I have no idea what I'm doing. But through this event, we met so many cool people that do surf dogs, and, people started just following us. And then like we do 3 events that year because I kind of learned from everybody else. Oh, there's another event. There's another event. Mm-hmm. And through this, we became such part of a great community of dog surfers. I tell people like, dude, yeah, it's a competition, but we don't win any money. There's no money to be made. You're usually spending more money than you are making money with this. It's all for just bragging rights, winning a trophy. But all the events that are held at the California coast are all for like donations or for a good cause. Mm-hmm. One of them is a great one is the Helen Woodward Animal Center. They put on one of the surf competitions here in Del Mar, and we became really good friends with them, helping raise money any way we can, raising awareness. They actually put on clinics every summer for people who want to teach their dogs how to surf, and we teach them how to do it. And I'm one of the volunteers that go out there with their dog that day and show them the tips and like these things that you need to learn or things you need to do before you even get in the water with your dog if you ever want to get in the water with your dog. Because, any way you can hang out with your best friend or hanging out with your best friend in the water is just a great day.
Absolutely.
So that's how our surfing career started. I guess another question you probably ask is how did this start? the blue hair. First couple of weeks we're in San Diego. Derby and I are going to Ocean Beach, Dog Beach every day just to chill out and just figure ourselves out. The groomer that I still use today from 6 years ago, she's actually wandering around handing out her business card. And she sees Derby. She said, yeah, I groom Doodles all the time. And he had kind of a mohawk going, but he was getting fluffy. And I said, yeah, he usually does a mohawk. Can you do a mohawk? She's like, totally. She said, I can even dye it. And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah, no.
And I was like, that's a thing? Oh, man. I was like, well, then, you ask the general questions that people ask me all the time. What kind of dye is it? Is it safe for dogs? Does it irritate their skin? Will it hurt their eyes? Anything? And she said, no, this is a vegan hair dye. It's a semi-permanent dye. Doesn't irritate their skin. Doesn't bother their eyes. It fades after a while. It's not like it's permanent. As you can see, it actually looks purple now because after we go to the water a lot, it will fade to purple. Even mine does. So she did it. The only color she had at the time was blue. And so she did it. He brought him back. Same thing. That's it. That's our look right there, bro. Like I fell in love with it. People even would watch us walk around and say, dude, you should dye your hair. And I was like, okay. And, there was sometimes during that years I had jobs that were like, hey man, we know you do this. As long as you can only dye your hair during surf season, you're fine, but don't do it all the time. I'm like, okay, I get it. I have a big boy job sometimes. And I'm like, all right, I can't dye my hair all the time, but they would let me have a mohawk. But no. So through that, we just kind of started this persona. And I started him on Instagram just to kind of just show all the crazy stuff we were doing for all my friends. And then all of a sudden we got a call from Amazon about the show. Another crazy story with that is Derby and I get a lot of stuff in our DMs of our Instagram and our emails, just, people wanting to work with us or people wanting to do podcasts just like this. And so he got this message in his DM. This is when we had maybe like 5,000 followers. But the thing of this, I didn't start his Instagram to try to become famous. I just wanted to show people what we do and just kind of say, hey, this is fun stuff we do. Yeah, nice. I got a flyer from a producer that said, hey, do you like to travel with your dog? Check out this show and apply. but it was just a set of flyer. It didn't even have like, I think it had a picture of a guy and a dog. It didn't even say Amazon on it. And I just looked at it and said, well, that's spam. I'll delete it. So I deleted it. 2 weeks later, another surf dog friend of ours got the same flyer, sent it to us and said, hey, you should check this out. Like, this is something you and Derby would be good at. And I was like, okay. Gave it to my fiance. She looked at it and she said, I'll fill it out. Okay. She filled it out. 2 days later, they're calling. They're like, hey, can you get on a Zoom call? Like, sure. Get on a Zoom call. 2 days later, can you get on another Zoom call? Can we talk again? Can you send us pictures? And, I tell them our story, like kind of where we were at in our life at the time. And then I kind of asked them, I said, is this a show where it's just kind of like what, two dudes with a camera? They just kind of follow around, like an internet show. And that's when they revealed like, no, this is actually an Amazon show. And it's a kind of a big deal. Like they're spending a lot of money. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like nothing like just some internet thing. This is big. And he's like, yeah, I'll let you in on a secret. Amazon spent almost $30 million on these shows. So yep. they didn't let back on this. So that's when I was like, oh, this is a real deal production. That's where it started on our adventure to get on the show. We tried out for it. We met, they did some training with us prior to us leaving with like the first top 24 dogs. We went to LA for 2 weeks and stayed at a hotel. They trained us with tricks that we might need to know on the show, but didn't tell us what we would be doing on the show. Mm-hmm. And then we got on the show and went on that whirlwind adventure that you all can all see on Amazon Prime called The Pack.
And if anyone hasn't seen it, you have to see it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing show.
I still can't believe some of the things we've done, some of the places we've been, and just, through that, we became friends with so many people that worked on the show to all the other contestants. We're still friends today to the point where we have a message, our own message chain where we talk to each other, hang out, or talk, see how each other's doing, help each other with each other's projects after the show. We also went on a RV adventure across the country with some of our pack mates.
Yeah, I was just going to say, now Derby developed a special friendship with another dog.
Yes. So on the show was our good friend Josh, who is a groomer in West Hollywood, and he has a beautiful poodle named Snow that he does these amazing colored dyes on her hair, different rainbowish colors. And, they try to make stories on the show because, they got to make it for people to want to watch it. Mm-hmm. But they kind of asked us, they've seen Derby and Snow play together. And Derby likes to play with other dogs, but he mostly likes to play like whatever I'm doing or playing fetch with me. But he would allow Snow to come up, bite on him, run around, chase him. He'd chase her. And I kind of saw, I was like, dude, what's going on here? Like, you usually don't like hanging out with dogs as much as like, you like hanging out with me. And me and Josh all saw it. Like, they had a little connection. So they made a little storyline that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. After Josh and Snow got eliminated and had to go home, we still kept in touch. That's when our fans started coming. After the show came out, the fans were like, well, do y'all still see Josh? Does he still see Snow? Are they still an item? And we're like, yeah. So we decided to give the fans what they wanted. So a couple months went by. We did a video of Derby and Snow getting engaged at Newport Beach on a boat. Our good friend Lucy, who was on the show, she's awesome. She's my wingman from the show. And afterwards, her and her husband do production stuff with some of their brands that they work with. And she knew how to edit video and send it out. And so she helped me and Josh get this stuff out. And she just was so amazing. Everybody fell in love with them getting engaged. And then the next question was, when are they getting married? And I was like, oh, how far are we actually going to take this? So our fans just kept asking. And, me and Josh had talked about it. We just like, man, when we find time, we'll do something. We'll do a small video. Well, something came up with all of us talking together about maybe doing an RV trip one last time. I had been approached by Dog TV, which is, you can get worldwide through the computer or internet or TV service. And they had said, dude, we'd love to work with you. And I said, well, we're thinking about doing this RV trip. Are you all down to maybe work with us on that? And they're like, yes. So me and Lucy created this whole trip. It was 7 people, 7 dogs, 1 RV. 10 days, 8 days, 10 states, 3,400 miles. And we started our RV in Nashville, went across, did meet and greets, met fans all over, because this was also during the pandemic where like, even when we off the show, we couldn't go meet people and do meet and greets like normally. So this was our first time to actually go out into the world and see our fans and travel again. And things were starting to open up a little bit here in the United States. So it was awesome. One of the stops was at Las Vegas, where Derby and Snow got married at the Little White Wedding Chapel with a Elvis impersonator doing the nuptials. It was so great. We had fans of ours from Georgia who flew in with their kids to come see the wedding. It was so awesome, and everybody loved it. So if you ever want to watch it, it's on Dog TV. It's called Road Dogs. But no, they're married now, which is so cool because now me and my fiance have to figure out when we're going to get married.
He's beating you again.
He just always one-ups me, gets me out there before I do. So, but yeah, that's what's been going on with us. Derby and I are still doing our thing. I still work full time as doing construction handyman stuff here, but like, we're still doing our projects. This year we became a certified therapy dog team. We started visiting hospitals and hopefully now we're going to start doing schools next year when they start opening up. But we do a lot of virtual visits through virtual field trip visits through schools all over the United States. We do this all for free. It's just, just love seeing put smiles on people's faces. One of the other projects that I'm almost finished with, and I can't wait to share this with everybody. We are doing a children's book. I've always wanted to do a children's book even before we got on the show, because I was just like, it'd be fun to see doodles of Derby or pictures of Derby, us doing our crazy stuff. And so through the show and everything else we've done, we've given us a platform to be able to do this. So me and my friend have been writing it. I'm actually talking to my illustrator after this to finalize some stuff. But like, I've got a dummy book going right here with some pictures of us and everything else. It's going to be amazing. Our goal is to, everybody asks me, what's your end goal? My end goal is to be able to travel across the United States or across the pond with our book, reading it to schools and to hospitals or anywhere who would take us. We want to go and just have fun, read our stories, maybe even make this into a series of just stuff, kind of like Curious George. I don't know if y'all never know like the book of Curious George with the little monkey that does crazy stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've heard of it though.
Yeah. So part of the book, there's a man in there that's the owner of Curious George, but the man never says his name, and his name is the man in the yellow hat. He has a big yellow hat. Well, in our book, I kind of want us to kind of base this off Curious George. So it's Derby and the man with the blue mohawk. Yeah, and I want Derby to be the star. I'm just the man with the blue mohawk. That's all he knows me as. And so just all our adventures of how we became who we are, started surfing, maybe another book about us traveling the United States, maybe another book about traveling the world, because, this is stuff I want to base off what we've done. And just to show people how to have fun with your best friend. That's our big thing. It's just, that's our next project. And then also you just gotta know where you're going to find us next. Cause anytime someone emails us or messages us, I'm all about saying, hey, let's talk.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I feel like I've been talking a lot. I didn't know if, you want to ask more questions or something like that.
No, look, well, it's all about Derby.
Yeah.
Derby's favorite toys.
Derby, it has to be the tennis ball. Like, we have 50,000 of them running around here. He will play fetch all day. He actually knows how to catch a Frisbee in the air, but if he sees a tennis ball, it's his main focus and goal is just to get that tennis ball and bring it back to me as soon as possible.
All right. And what would you say would be his favorite games to play?
Oh, his favorite game is definitely fetch. I mean, surfing's his big thing. Like I said, I had to start learning to surf a little better after our first year of surfing competition, because during our surf competition, there's 3 categories. There's single dog, where you push the dog in. There's tandem dog, which is usually like 2 or more dogs on a board. You push them in. And then there's tandem dog human. So I had to get a lot better at surfing before we could start doing tandem dog human. And now that, we surf together, there's times I grab my surfboard, like, hey, I'm about to go surf for a little bit. I'll be back. And he gives me this look like, well, why can't I go? And I'm like, all right. So I put my single board back and I'll grab our double board. And I was like, all right, come on, let's go. And we end up going surfing together. So like he loves surfing. He loves being in the water. I can't keep, like I said, from a dog who hated water, I can't keep him out of water now. Like I gotta go somewhere and there's a pond. I'm like, well, I better hold on to his leash a little tighter.
Nice.
Yeah, swimming and just having fun is his main thing.
Have you ever picked up any interesting items on the beach?
Yeah, we picked up nothing too crazy. I know you can always find something nuts down here in San Diego, especially close to Mexico. The biggest thing we have to worry about here in San Diego is there are sharks, but I mean, you all have great white sharks circling your whole island. We have sharks here, but they don't come where the dogs usually surf. And plus, we don't go as far out as people think we do. Like half the time we're surfing in maybe chest deep water, nothing crazier than that. But out here in San Diego, we have things called stingrays, and these little tiny stingrays. And if you step on one and they turn around and hit you, it is not that fun. I've been hit twice. I've seen some other surf dogs get hit, but it didn't affect them as much as it does us because y'all probably have them too, where if they hit you, it's just basically poison in your leg until it wears out. That's about the only crazy thing around here in San Diego beaches, what we find.
Right. Has you ever had to go to the vet for anything serious?
No, we did have an incident on the show where he kind of picked up a stomach bug while we were in London. And if you watch the episode, we actually won the race where we didn't have to compete in the elimination, and Derby was just not feeling good. And he had the bubbly guts. And this is one of those incidents that the crew didn't know what to do. So the next day we're heading back to the United States, and Derby's was like, we're on an 8-hour flight across the Atlantic. There ain't no stopping, pulling over, letting the dog go to the bathroom. Luckily we were on a private jet, private 737. But I looked at them, I said, he's got to go. What do y'all want to do? And they're like, I was like, I told you all he was sick. So we had to take him back in the galley, like line the galley with like trash bags. And he went. He was like, man, I got to go.
Which is fair.
So that's traveling. I mean, he picked up a bug. Afterwards, he was feeling fine. But nothing crazy. We've never had to go to the hospital or nothing yet. You never know.
Yeah, it's a big ask for, especially going on a show like that, because there's a lot of air travel involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just never know. I mean, when dogs got to go, they got to go.
Absolutely. So apart from the beach, what about favorite walks and things like that?
Everybody asks me, so living in California, you go on hikes a lot? And well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like to hike. and that's the thing. Derby and I've always wanted to get Derby and I on any or every mode of transportation as possible. This is down to cars, trucks, canoes, boats, airplanes, helicopters, gondolas, escalators. We've done it all. We have a motorcycle sidecar that we putt around San Diego, and Derby's just chilling. So that's our big thing is I want to find every mode of transportation. So next on our list, we've done wave runners out in the ocean. The next thing is we need to get a snowmobile. So we got to go somewhere cold, which I don't like cold weather, but he loves it. And I want to find an elephant. And maybe a horse-drawn carriage is next. But we've been on so many, even with the show, they were able to take us in helicopters and boats and stuff like that. But kayaking, paddleboarding, surfing, scooters. We ride scooters here around town. He sits in between my legs and I just kind of putt around. So that's our big goal, is to try to find out how many modes of transportation we can find. Wow. But hiking, not our thing. That's
a new one for me, and I love it.
You just never know where we're going to pop up on some new kind of contraption.
If I had to ask you the first thing that pops into your head to say your proudest moment of Derby?
Oh, you know what? The proudest moment of Derby is probably one of them was this past weekend, this couple weekend we had on our surf competition, but not even that. It's just him. Well, I'll tell you this one, the surf competition, is the Derby and I used to win, but we usually come in second, third, fourth, but we came in second a lot. And even in the show, like, I don't want to lose spoilers, but we came in second. But like, at the end of the day, it's not about win or losing. It's about just having fun and being out there. And this 2 weeks ago, Derby finally got first place overall. I was super proud. I was kind of like, oh my God, we finally did it. But then again, I was like, it doesn't matter because it's just about having fun. But the fact that he did it, but I believe my proudest moment, and it still gets me today, is Derby and I becoming a therapy dog team and being able to help others just by the way we look, the way his mannerisms are. We were actually started doing our training at one of the facilities here in San Diego that was housing a lot of the refugees coming up through Mexico from like Ecuador and Honduras that, were trying to make it to the United States. And I get it. Everybody wants to get to the United States because you definitely find a better life to live here. They were housing at this civic center here in San Diego. They were housing all the little girls from 6 to 17 at our convention center. There was probably 1,400 of them at the time. And they were trying to get them to their families here in the Americas. And at the time, they were trying to teach them English, kind of the way of how you need to live in the United States. So during our training of as a therapy dog team, we went one day and part of our training was there. And all these little girls, none of them spoke English. And that was something I also took from being on the show, traveling the United States. It's like even though we couldn't speak their language or they couldn't speak our language, when you see a dog, your face just lights up no matter where you are. Absolutely. And it's an international language. And I was just, and like these little girls didn't speak English. They were trying to talk to me. And I'm like, no habla español. Like, I don't know. But the fact that they could pet Derby and just their faces light up, because I know they were in a tough situation trying to like leave their country to find families in a place they have no idea. This one story that I remember, this little girl, there was a room where these little girls had 15 minutes to talk to either their family back home or try to talk to their family here in the United States. And coming out of the room, a lot of these little girls came out really distraught. They're crying, not feeling good because they're just homesick. And this little girl came out, sat by herself over by the wall, till she was crying. I just made eye contact with her and just looked at Derby and said, "You want to pet Derby?" And I didn't say anything, so you're not allowed to talk to him or ask him questions. And she kind of gave me the nod. And I brought Derby over, and Derby just kind of put his head into her, and she just gave him the biggest hug. And with me, all I had to do was just sit there and hold the leash and just let Derby work and just do what he does, is make people feel better. And I was so proud of him at that moment because I was like, man, you did it, buddy. Like my fiance's by the way. Like, you're doing what I've always wanted to do, is just help people, and you're helping people and you don't even know it. But like, I think he did know it, but like, it was just so amazing. One of the best things I love telling people, like what he does.
Absolutely. That is a beautiful moment. And
yeah, thank you.
And they just do so much.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't mean like that's not like they're trying to work, and they're just trying to just have fun. But like, if they can see somebody in distress, they love to make them feel a lot better.
Also, like how a lot of people would say that Derby is a very active dog. And
yes.
That sort of like contradicts some people's idea of that chilled therapy dog. But that's such a good example to say that, hey, you can have a dog that does both of those things.
Yeah, totally. Because like, I think he kind of picks up on my vibe where if it's time to play, he's 100 miles an hour. But when it's time to just walk around or just chill, if I want to just spend the whole day on the couch, he's right there with me. Like, let's just do this, man. Let's just chill. But as soon as he's kind of like me, when it's time to play or do something fun, he'll switch on. Like, all right, let's do this.
Excellent. A question I ask all my guests is to complete the sentence. I can't believe my dog ate.
Let's see. I can't believe my dog ate. Man, about the worst thing I've ever seen him do is eats some other animal's poop.
Yeah, that's fairly common-ish.
Yeah, like I mean, he's never really eaten things crazy, and I'm just kind of like, I can't believe you just chewed that up and swallowed it, and now it's gonna have to come out your butt. But like no, like I mean, just dogs do that in general. They just don't know what they're doing. But like as a grown dog, I looked at him like, "What are you doing, bro? You're not a puppy anymore." Like I don't even know what to do. So like I basically pulled him off. I had to take a hose and just basically hose his mouth out. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man, but like, you're definitely going to have to brush your teeth out. But yeah, that's not the craziest thing I've ever seen him. Now, like I said, before I got him, he had actually eaten 2 dresses. So, I don't know past that after I've had him.
Did you notice much of a change in his personality when you made the move to San Diego?
Yeah, I kind of did. Derby, he was always about like still wanting to be around me, and his confidence level was there. But like moving out here, he kind of came into his own, like kind of I was when I was trying to figure out my life and start over, and just try to figure out what I was doing. But like his confidence level just kind of built being here. I mean, I think he, when he goes out there and surfing in front of a crowd, you see it in his eyes, like, oh, I'm kind of performing, running around, just kind of just impressing people, like, this is what I can do. But like, yeah, so I feel like his confidence level boosted, along with his mind boosted. So, but like that, but at the end of the day, we're still pretty humble about it. We're just kind of like, man, this is just what we do. This is like how we have fun, and we'd love to share it with everybody else.
Now, I know that now there's at least one other dog in the household.
Yeah, this is his sister Scout. This is my fiance's dog when we first came together. She is a rescue from Atlanta. She is a little pit mix. So Derby doesn't shed, but pits have their what we call pitty glitter. So we still have dog hair everywhere, but it's a dog family, so we don't care. She's tried surfing. She does not like the water as much as Derby, but she does stand up paddleboard and everything else. But she's more of a house dog, cuddle with you all day. I don't know. Do you have a dog at home?
Yes, yeah, I do. Yep, we've got she's a bit over 8 years old now, a female Doberman.
Okay, yeah, my sister has Dobermans. They're so amazing animals, and Dobermans like to cuddle. Yeah. And like they'll get under covers and everything. It could be freezing or it could be hot. They're just wanting to be there. Doodles or Derby in general, they'll cuddle, but at nighttime they can get hot quick. And about 20 minutes into going to sleep, he's on the floor in the bathroom trying to get cold. This one right here, it could be 110 degrees or 20 below. She's under the covers, like, let's get closer.
Well, that covers off. I was just going to ask about sleeping arrangements in the house, but
yeah, nah.
How was Derby in that first introduction of another dog coming in?
Oh, you know what they knew because they both have grown up. They're about 9 years old now. So they were both, 3 or 4 when they met, and they were really puppyish and kind of like jumped around, but now they're their own little pack. Mm-hmm. It's so cool. And I also like to tell people about while we were on the show, as we're traveling around with our dogs, these dogs didn't know each other very well, but after a while they became their own pack. They knew every day seeing the same dogs, like, oh, okay, this is our new thing. We are a group. We eat together. We sleep together. We do things together. And we'd be like doing a stop down in the middle of a city. And, they had these little areas set up with our little cages and kind of us taking a break. But anytime somebody else would walk by with just a random dog, all the dogs would go crazy. Like, hey, that dog is too close to our pack. We're trying to protect our area and our people. That dog needs to leave. But, but he's still cool. He loves meeting other dogs and playing around.
With the show, what was your favorite activity that you think Derby enjoyed doing with you?
Yeah, we get this all the time. So a couple things. My favorite place we visited was definitely Costa Rica in Capos. I love that beachy scene, the jungles, going out into the jungles, rappelling down the waterfall with Derby between my legs. Just hearing the howler monkeys and the difference. He saw a 3-toed sloth in the trees and didn't know what to make of it. He said, that's a big squirrel and it's moving really slow. I don't know what it is. I believe Derby loved Switzerland. I'm not a cold weather person. If you watch the show, I think the only thing you can see is my eyes. I just hate being cold. But he loved it. It's the first time he had ever been in deep, deep snow before. And he just loved playing in it, chasing the gondolas going overhead. It was my first time having to deal with, which I've never dealt with doodles that live where snow is, that when they start playing, they get clumps and clumps of snow in their fur, right underneath their belly and their tails. And once you bring them out of the snow, you can't do nothing but just let it thaw out. So I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, yeah, we're probably not going to live in where it snows a lot. But my most memorable event that I'm so proud of him about is the episode in London. They did kind of a whole like dungeon-y thing because, London's known for having prisons and dungeons underneath the streets. I tell the story that so the object of the challenge was they were going to put me in a dungeon. Derby was going to be outside of the cage. Derby had to get me the key to get free. It's like, okay, no problem. We ran into this underground dungeon. And if you watch the show, the people who built the set did an amazing job. They had a thing that, the lock where the people hold it and like this. They had to actually build a gate that looks like bars to the old dungeon because it was an actual old dungeon. They decorated it. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Y'all put it in for it. And they was like, all right, you're going to be in the cage. You're going to have to build this long stick to get Derby off the leash, unhook him, and he's got to go over there and get you the key to get out. I was like, is that it? And they're like, yeah. Like, okay. They say, go. I make this stick. The whole time I'm telling Derby, like, Derby, we're about to get out of here. Ain't no prison going to hold us, man. We're about to bust out of here so quick. Literally, I think we busted out of there. Like, as soon as I got Derby off, I unclicked it. And like I said, I taught Derby to pick things up for me. And I pointed at it. And my thing is I'll snap and point in the direction. I say, hey, give me that. He walked over, pulled the keys off the nail, walked over, gave it to me, unlocked it. We were gone. And then afterwards they tell you to stop. And the producers came up to me and said, dude, that was amazing. And they're like, we didn't think you were going to get out that fast. I was literally in there for 20 seconds and then we were gone. And I kind of felt bad because they spent a lot of time making this dungeon and it was on for 20 seconds on show. But yeah, we crushed it on that one. Like it was so just like, hey, this is what you want me to have him pick something up for me? Derby, go get me that key.
Yeah, nice. There any other sort of like interesting thing behind the scenes sort of things that you can sort of like chat about that particularly Derby sort of orientated?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time and fans, I said, man, like, because we do a lot of IG lives and sometimes, and I'm like, hey, if y'all got any questions about the show, like what really happened, or like if you saw something the show didn't look right, I'll tell you what really happened. And it's just like any other reality show. They only have so many minutes to show everything. I mean, there was just always something crazy. I mean, there's so many that I can't remember or just continue, but like, no, just Derby, just hanging out most of the time. One thing I used to tell all the producers, even the director, I'm just a pretty laid back dude. Like it takes a lot for me to get hyped up. I love helping everybody. That's why I loved helping my team and making sure that we all work together. If you watch the show, I'm usually the last person to get over the line because it doesn't matter if you're first as a group project, you still got to get everybody else over. So I would make sure that the last person was coming across before I've been crossed. But I would tell the producers, I'm like, hey man, I understand that we're here to do a job to entertain and have fun on camera. I totally get that. I said, when the cameras are on and we're mic'd up, I will be your little dancing monkey. I will have my persona. I will talk to the camera. Like, that's what they're looking for. Like, it's all about interacting just to produce a show. But when the cameras are off, I'm going to be in the back taking a nap. and that's the thing. I can switch it on and switch it off. And like, there'd be times like, all right, stop down. So it was like Vienna, Austria. It was cold. I would go, they have these pens set up for the dogs to be in pens or hang out in this little area. And I would curl up in the pen with Derby, curled up, trying to stay warm, and just take a nap. Because, any kind of like production, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. You don't know how long you're going to be waiting. And so I got it. So I was like, okay. So they'd be like, all right, everybody, let's go. Where's Kentucky Derby? Like, They're in the back taking a nap. Like, and as soon as like I woke up and they're like, all right, camera's on. I'm like, let's go.
Do you think, what was another favorite hotel? Because we were looking when we watch it, we haven't got, we're not quite as dog friendly as a lot of other countries around the world here. Yeah. So you look at that and you're going like, whoa, you know.
So we stayed in some magnificent hotels, Four Season hotels in Mexico City, some old hotels in Vienna, Italy. We stayed in our own, what do you call those? Like personal houses with their own staff. I can't think what you call that, but you know, just like what rich people would rent for the week. And like that had its own staff and its own garden. It had its own overlook of the city of in Italy and London. We stayed in a beautiful hotel. All of them are good. I mean, I mean, when I was working here in LA, one of the stipulations when I worked before I got on the show, I was working in LA and I would go up for the week and come back on the weekends. And one of the stipulations to do that, I told them, I said, I will go do this for a year only if my dog can come. And they're like, okay. So I stayed in hotels all over LA County, Orange County, and I would go from job to jobs. And we would stay at the Motel 6s. I don't know if y'all have Motel 6s in Australia, but they're kind of like the dingy, you know, like $60 a night hotels, but they allow dogs. They didn't care. So I've stayed in the nastiest hotels to the most expensive 5-star hotels all over the world. So it's just like, to us, we're just like, man, as long as we can rest our head, we're good.
So when you travel in the car with Derby, where's his spot?
Man, his spot is on the front seat right beside me. Man, he just loves to hang out. Like I said, when I first got him, he was scared. He was skittish. He wouldn't even look out the window. Now he loves sticking his head out the window like, hey, man, what's going on? I like that wind in my face. So, yeah, he's my sidekick. He's my road dog. He's my co-pilot. So he's right there beside me.
What would you say when you going back a little bit doing training with Derby? What sort of style training did you use with him?
Oh, so I learned a lot when they were training us to teach our dogs certain tricks. But also when they told us certain tricks that the dogs would be learning, I was kind of like, really? I don't think my dog is going to do that. One of the things we had to do was scent training. I usually associate scent training with dogs who really work, like police dogs or, dogs that work at airports or dogs who work in the military. Like, you don't associate your dog that you take home every night to want to learn scent training. And it was so awesome. They kind of gave us the groundworks of it. And the trainers weren't there to teach the dogs. They were here to teach us to teach the dogs. Yep. And so we kind of learned like, oh, wow, this is so awesome. Like giving us tips. And this is stuff that I tell people today because people always ask us like, how do I teach my dog to do stuff like Derby? I'm like, it's very simple. You just got to break it down to the simplest form of whatever trick you're trying to learn. Set it up that the dog succeeds. It's all about succeeding. Because, if the dog gets frustrated, you get frustrated. It's not fun for anybody. It's patience and a lot of treats. Like just a lot of treats. Even like doing a simple thing is like giving your paw, like, come on. Good boy. Okay. Simple things of teaching your dog to do that. Like he didn't know how to do it. But like when I tell people like, let's start with simple stuff. Like grab his paw and kind of grab paw. But like, even if your dog halfway attempts it when you're training your dog to do it, congratulate him. Act like it's the greatest party in the world. Like they just succeeded in just running a marathon. Like, yeah, good job. Yay. Hug him, give him treats. They start to associate like, hey, if he's happy when I did this, what if I did this? And that's where they pick it up. And then they understand like, hey, I want to please you as much as possible. And that's where they pick up on cues from you. So that's what, the biggest thing I brought home from training is just take baby steps, patience, set them up for success and throw a party at any moment they do something good.
Excellent. So Derby's favorite treats?
Oh man, it's usually whatever I'm eating. No, we have so many different treats. people always ask me like, oh, you must feed Derby like some high-end brand dog food. I'm like, nah, I'm still like a country boy at heart. He eats dry food. Now, sometimes I'll get him some high-end stuff or, put some canned stuff in there to switch it up. But I'm more of like just, man, whatever they tell you not to feed your dogs scraps off your own table. I come from a farm where, any scrap that was on your table, you threw it out to the dogs. And I get it. It's dangerous. I know there's been times but like, I don't give him bones as much, but like if I'm eating like a pizza, if I'm done with half of it, I'm like, here you go.
Another question back to the show. Was there ever any activity where it sort of made you worry a little bit? Like, oh, wow, that looks a bit like sketchy.
So, yeah, and that's one of the things, like the episode when we were in Costa Rica when the dogs were rappelling down the waterfall. And I know that like some organizations found video of that and kind of got involved. And I tell people like, look, there's moments when you're doing anything with your dog. If you catch it at the right moment or right angle, it looks like the dog is freaked out. And I told them at the get-go, I was like, look, if I don't want to do this with my dog, they're like, you don't have to do it. I totally agree. So I fully trust and still trust the dog handlers, the dog trainers, the dog rescues, the whole crew. All we did was perfectly safe. If I wouldn't do it, then I wouldn't let my dog do it. So it's one of those things like everything was triple check, double check. And, to make sure that the dogs were not freaking out. And that's why we had the training and begin just to make sure that the dogs were able to do it and that the dogs felt comfortable doing it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I never felt at any time that like, oh, this is not something I'm going to do. Because I told him from the get-go, like, if I don't think my dog wants to do it, we ain't doing it. And there was an instant where Jax, the golden doodle, didn't want to cross the rope bridge. The
suspension bridge, yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. He was just kind of freaked out. And that's why they're like, look, we're not going to disqualify you because the dog doesn't want to do anything, because we're not forcing him. Now, if the human didn't want to do it, you're definitely going to get disqualified.
I was going to say, for the people listening, they also gave an alternative if the dog wasn't happy doing the activity.
Yeah. But I said if the human didn't want to do it, you were disqualified immediately. And I totally agree with that. Cause like, humans can decide. Dogs are kind of like, we'll talk about it. But no, I felt like the dog safety team, everybody involved with all the adventures we did and all the, I guess you would call them stunts. Even like in LA where we did a zip line from the top of the Watchtower building down to the trucks. I mean, totally safe. I felt confident in everything that we did.
Cool. Do you think Derby misses doing those sort of more extreme activities and the travel?
That's another question we used to get all the time. Like, do you think Derby knows he's in Italy?
Yeah.
Do you think Derby knows he's in Costa Rica? And I'm looking at him like, I think he thinks we're down the street.
Knows it's, hey, this smells a little different,
Smells a little different. He wants to know where I am. And he cares if we're together and hanging out. That's all his thought is. He can care less if we're like, on an airplane over to London or, out in the deserts of Utah. He's just like, man, are we hanging out together today? Cool. Let's do something.
So you mentioned sloths a little bit earlier. Has Derby had much interaction with other species?
Oh, you know what? We've been approached by I guess there's a kind of a semi-Instagram cat. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to go surfing with you. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen Derby chase squirrels and stuff because, he's still a dog. And I tell people sometimes you got to let a dog be a dog. Yeah. His big thing is if he sees something scurrying, he's going to chase it. And I understand this. If he's not on a leash, he's going to go. And I get it. Then he comes back. But I don't know. It's just one of those instincts you're not going to break from some dogs. Like, hey, man, if that cat runs, he's probably going to chase it. I don't think he's going to try to harm the cat. I just think it's something in his brain. He's like, oh, I need to chase that. No, he's never really seen it. I mean, besides that three-toed sloth, hearing howler monkeys in the distance. Actually, in Costa Rica, we'd wake up and there'd be monkeys sitting on our balcony with a sliding glass window. And Derby's like, oh, I need to catch that. Because he just doesn't understand that, hey, man, I just know it's going to run and I'm going to have fun chasing it.
Excellent. Anything else immediately coming to mind as interesting sort of story or adventure?
Man, you know what? There's always something.
There's probably 1,000, but
Yeah, we have so many. Ones will pop up. I mean, the big thing I like to tell people is like, hey, we started our own brand called Derby California. We have tie-dye shirts and tie-dye hoodies that we make that for you and your dog to match. We're all about the matchy, as you can see. The story on how we started this brand. When I first moved to San Diego, there's an OB farmer's market. It's every Wednesday. I met a guy who was doing tie-dye, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, because I don't know, tie-dye that I remember, because I don't really like tie-dye, because I remember tie-dye, what you did at summer camp, and it was just the big colors and swirls. Well, I saw his tie-dye, which is kind of like a patternish marble look. And even on our hoodies, they're really marble-ish looking. And I was like, that's really cool. I didn't know tie-dye did that. And I kind of fell in love with it. And I said, hey, man, do you think you could do a hoodie? He's like, yeah, I do hoodies on top. I said, do you think you could do a dog hoodie? He said, well, if you bring it to me, I'll do it. So I brought him a dog hoodie, which it's this beautiful colored dog hoodie. He still has it today. I call it the OG, the original hoodie. And it's one of the color styles that we offer on our website. It's called the OG that we have. And and everybody kind of fell in love with it. And I was like, and I kept telling this guy year after year, man, I'm going to start a dog hoodie company with you, and we're going to sell tie-dye dog hoodies. He's like, yeah, cool. Let me know. Year 2 go by, year 3. Well, as soon as the show came out, I realized I have a platform now that I think I can do this. So right before the show came out in November, I started Derby California, and we started making hoodies. And I actually Derby and I would help make the first batches because we were doing it. And it's been such a successful, amazing business. We ship all over the world to all our fans everywhere. At our last place, I would tell people, like, look, my living room looks like a tie-dye hoodie factory just threw up everywhere. We have shirts, we have merch everywhere, but it's just so awesome that how many people we've touched through the show and have allowed us to start this brand with his face on it. On our backs, his brand, it says all good all the time. And it's just so cool. Even then, like, we traveling around, people would show up wearing Derby California shirts. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, that was started here. I packed it up in my living room and shipped it to you. And now you're wearing it in front of me in a different place.
Excellent. So to be a little bit more specific, do you want to let listeners know where they can get their Derby California gear, and also where they can see more of Derby?
Yeah, totally. So you can go to derbycalifornia.com. It has our merch and about us, some of the things we're up to now. You can get us on Cameo if you want us to do a little message for you or your friend. You can book us on Cameo. What else? We got our Instagram is Derby California, because Facebook is Derby California. We just trademarked Derby California. So, we're all about starting this business. Making it grow. Like I said, hopefully here by Christmas, maybe definitely by the beginning of the year, we'll have our children's book out, which you can purchase either on Amazon or on our website.
That is awesome. And don't forget to check out The Pack on Amazon.
On Amazon Prime, great family show. I tell people all the time who haven't seen that, I'm like, hey, I'll let you in on one secret. We're on every episode.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Just letting you know, we're on every episode.
It has been a ball. I've so enjoyed talking to you and hearing about a little bit extra about Derby. It's so much fun.
Oh, thank you so much, Robert, for having us. We love telling our story and just introducing new people and meeting new people all over the world. This is so crazy. Like, now that, through computer and technology, we can talk face to face with anybody in the world.
Awesome. And more people get to see just how awesome dogs are.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Just like our new listeners in Henrietta in the US and in Tumoli in Italy. And I am sure that they will be sharing this episode and talking about it with their friends. I hope you do too. And if you'd like to get in contact with me here at the show or for anything else, just jump onto the Facebook group. Until next week, stay safe and remember, your dog is family.